I grew up in Silicon Valley in the 60s, but my father's a physicist, and he was very supportive of my interest in math and science. So it was okay growing up to want to do math and science and be physics, do physics and math and stuff. So I did like super well in high school, but it was not okay with the boys to be smarter than them. So like I had a group of friends, but I never went to a prom, I never went to a date. It was considered mega geeky to like want to take advanced math and stuff like that. So I came here in 1976 in the physics department, and there were 150 grad students, and I was the 6th woman. So there were 5 other women, plus myself and 1 other woman in my class of 20 who came, a woman. And we got together once a week for lunch. We talked about research. We gave practice talks, but we talked and we found out about what was going on, and we had a super supportive department chair. So Doug Fitchin was department chair. He's passed away since. And he wanted to encourage more women to come to Cornell. So he put one of us on the admissions committee. So if you were a promising woman candidate, you got a phone call from one of us saying, come here and you won't be the only woman. So other universities were getting concerned because everybody's turning them down. Well, they were going to Cornell because why be the only one? At Stanford, you could be one of 5, 10. So 5, 6 years later, when I finished my PhD, there were 25 to 28 of us. It wasn't one of those places where they weeded everybody out, so all of us succeeded once we got in. We succeeded and went on and did PhDs and faculty positions and research and things like that. So that's where we came from. There are 2 big seminars every week in the physics department, and nobody can remember a woman ever giving a talk at those big seminars. So we gave the boys a list. There were no women faculty, of course, a list of prominent women physicists. And there were only 1% at the time. And the first year they didn't do anything except invite somebody's daughter to talk about her father's research, which was horrific. But the next year they invited a couple of prominent physicists, very people who became very well known or were already well known. And they met with us and told us their stories like, well, women weren't allowed to teach, but somebody got leukemia, so they let me teach this course, but they knew I'd be too soft. And of course, she's a full professor with an enormous lab at MIT. And so these people managed to start to break into the system or work at Bell Labs or places like that. But they all to the one met with us and talked about balancing career and the issues that they had faced. I finished up in 1982 at Cornell, just as they hired their very first woman faculty member in physics. And one of the things they did right was they hired somebody extraordinarily competent. So somebody who finished her PhD at Caltech in 3 years. So there was no question of of where she was going. And I did a postdoc for 2 years, but then I had children, and I stayed home with them for 7, 8 years when my 3 girls were young. I worked part-time doing a postdoc with just my oldest, but then when I had my second, I chose to stay home, and the grant ended that I'd been working on. So I loved staying home with my kids, and then in 1991, I volunteered to build just one exhibit. And this is back before the Sciencenter had a permanent home. We were just a series of storefronts, but we were planning for this space. We had chosen this piece of property. We were thinking about what to do. And we only owned half the property at that point in time. And so I volunteered to build just one exhibit and ended up keeping track of the list of ideas for an outdoor science park, which is going to be just a little corner. The building was going to occupy almost all of that half of the lot. And there was going to be space for a few sound pipes and things like that. But being organized, I kept track of the list of ideas. So here at the Sciencenter, I do get to do a lot of different kinds of science. Sometimes it's because we're bringing in a traveling exhibition. Sometimes it's because we're developing something and I'm doing some research, or I'm helping people write graphics because I do poke at the science. We have a reputation for correct science. So that means I'm going to learn it and understand it well enough that I can make sure that I'm happy with the label. Long ago, I used to actually build and develop exhibits. So a lot of what used to be out in the science park before we refurbished it were things that I got the materials for, lined up, figured out how to build or build entire traveling exhibitions that fill up a semi-trailer or 2, or coordinated volunteers and help them, nudge them along, provided materials. But mostly what I do now is all the support for our traveling exhibitions, because we have museum exhibitions that go all over the US and Canada. So every 4 months, I have 10 to 12 exhibitions that are moving from one museum to the next. We build things here, but a lot of people don't. Just to keep things exciting, they rent traveling exhibitions. So most of what we do here is develop what we call interactive, hands-on, open-ended exhibits, a single exhibit or a cluster of exhibits on a single area, because we want you to come and not read a sign on a wall, but experiment yourself, be a science, engage in the process of science, and also go away sort of empowered like, hey, I can do science. We have a national reputation for the quality of our exhibitions, but also the science. So we reach 1 million people or more a year with the exhibitions that we're touring, some of which we've developed, but some people have now come to us at the Science Center and said, could you tour our exhibition? our umbrella organization in Washington, D.C. has sent museums to us saying, you should contact the Science Center if you want to get it travel-worthy. Well, obviously I love science or I wouldn't have done it. And I think that for me, being able to do this job, crazy as it might be, is a gift. I mean, I get to work for something that makes a difference, that really makes a difference. More people are comfortable in science. We have also done these cool surveys at the high school, in the homerooms with the seniors. Like 60 to 80% remember a visit to the Science Center and say it positively impacted their interest in science. Whether or not they major in science, they are more likely to take a science course and stay interested in science because of their visit here. So we get to do that, and I get to do that in a domino effect at museums all across the country.